Welcome to the Innovation Economy Podcast, where we look at the factors that drive business growth, including how people, processes, platforms, and places work together to create the future of work. I'm your co-host, Bonnie Habian. I'm a CMO, author, speaker, branding expert, and passionate content creator. This episode is part of our Brand the Change series, which focuses on how entrepreneurs and engaged employees can leverage their personal brand and superpowers to support their company, showcase their skill sets, and create value. To listen to the latest episodes or to sign up for the Innovation Economy newsletter, go to innovationeconomy.show or click follow on your favorite podcast app to make sure you hear the latest episodes. And now, onto the show. Today, we're talking about the future employee and what superpowers they need to develop in order to have an edge in the workplace. Experts say there are a lot of dynamics in play that are reshaping what hard and soft skills employees need to sharpen in order to be relevant and impactful, part of the world's innovation economy. I've mentioned this before, but as our world and technology evolve, we are constantly experiencing dynamic shifts in skill sets and working protocols. In fact, experts say many of the jobs that will be available in 2030 have not even been developed yet. Imagine that. They're all new roles. So how do we prepare for that? How can employees work on their own personal brand by thinking ahead of the curve and out of the box? With us today is someone who has been in the recruiting industry for 25 years for one of the world's leading search companies, Spencer Stuart, a global search firm with dozens of offices across more than 30 countries. Greg Welch heads up Spencer Stuart's M50 marketing group and has a high-level view of the myriad factors impacting the workforce overall and in marketing leadership roles specifically. At Brand the Change, we're focused on how employees can and are creating real change and driving growth. So let's jump right in now to leverage Greg's insights as boots on the ground, as he is surrounded every day by top talent in a fiercely competitive sector. Welcome, Greg.
Glad to be here, Bonnie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. And I know employees want to hear all about what they should expect and how they need to prepare. So I'm going to ask you, tell me what your definition of a superpower is with respect to what employees need to have now and what recruiters are looking for in this crazy dynamic world we find ourselves in.
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been watching this. I've had a bit of a front row seat now for 25 years, as you mentioned, at the firm. And when I think about what clients are asking of us, they're superpowers, but sometimes it's almost superhuman. And I actually think the search industry has done a bit of a disservice allowing clients and search firms, for that matter, to develop these unbelievably lofty expectations of all the things the candidate needs to have. And so those of us that are in the middle of it are trying to figure out, how do we get our feet back on the ground? How do we level set in terms of expectations of what you could expect a terrific new CEO or a terrific new CMO to actually get done? Having faulty expectations doesn't do anybody any favors. And I think we've gotten better about that over the years. I think of them now as almost superpowers. And what does an executive need to demonstrate in the course of a series of interviews about what they're uniquely qualified and how they might stick out versus the rest?
Well, can you give an example? You say that some of them are very lofty expectations. Just what are some of the things that you think may be just really, really out of reach?
Well, depending on what the business needs are, typically in a job specification, we'll have 5, 6, 7 items that we ideally want, ideal experiences. And then some are characteristics, kind of the way you show up and the way you get things done. If I were to boil down and think about a couple of the things, if I wanted to land the plane in an interview, if I were giving advice to your listeners, I would say, how do you demonstrate that you've got, I think of Superman, if we're thinking superpowers, superior vision. So we're looking for leaders today that have the ability to look around corners, to continually be curious, to think about a perspective on what trends may impact our consumer set. What are the competitive threats that might exist? How do we anticipate those?
Yeah.
And typically when I look at the very best, whether they be marketers or GMs, they're ones that have this really great vision. The other piece that if I were to pile on, I would say data wizardry, right now, particularly in the marketing world, we're expecting that CMOs are totally in tune with data analytics. They know how to analyze it. They know how to leverage technology. They can always bring a longer term strategic perspective to the party. So, understanding data is something, our clients refer to it. I think we probably planted the word of like, I'm looking for a modern marketer. And when I peel that back, what do you really mean? They want somebody that's a bit of a digital native, that understands new technology, because typically their boards of directors don't understand it. Oftentimes the CEO, many of my CEO clients are marketers and pride themselves on having a pretty good eye as it relates to marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But really, when you double click on this and having sat in the chair recently, marketers need to be the one that can figure out how do you manage dashboards and how do you take a modern, which means, by the way, really efficient, not a big ad spend, but rather how do you deploy digital dollars to get a real impact.
You know what? I think you are spot on, and I think all of that is justified. The world has changed. So I think this kind of segues right into the next question I had for you, and you almost answered it. But if you could talk about three dominant factors you see shaping employment trends over the next 3 to 5 years, what are they?
Oh, boy, there's so many forces, as you would expect. The first one would be diversifying your own workforce and team. And this is planting seeds. I've been at this a long time. We're trying to figure out how do we create an environment, workforce environment, that people that may have different upbringings than you or me might feel comfortable and can thrive. And so we need to think differently. We just can't think about the way we did it in the 80s or 90s. We need to think differently about how do we create an environment where talent across gender, ethnicity, from underrepresented groups feel welcomed, can thrive. And so that is a force that's not going away. I'm not personally content where it is now. I can tell you, we, Spencer Stewart, and our clients are working really hard on this dimension and making great progress. As an example, and maybe you've seen this now in the marketing world in the US, Fortune 500 companies, there are more females in those chairs than men.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, new, we're proud of that. Our clients are working hard with us on that front. So that's happening.
Yeah, I've seen so much change.
Yeah, which is this is positive change. The other thing that you can't avoid at this point is just the economic uncertainty. I will tell you that the technology sector for our business and globally, not just in North America, in the first part of 23, there was a bit of a hiccup. We saw some earnings issues. We saw some of the big tech giants slowing down their hiring, thinking differently about their layoffs, and we've got an upcoming election, as you well know. I don't quite know what to think about the market at this point, although we're bullish currently. You just got to assume that we're going to have turbulent winds economically, let alone you sprinkle in a war and other conflicts and tragedy that's going on in the world. And then the last one would be technological advancements. The good news, and I suspect you'll ask about AI, the game of marketing is changing in a tremendous way. We're going to have to learn to, how do we embrace it? How do we bring it close? How do you bring in experts to help you manage it? And so technology and the changes that go with that are certainly going to be a big influence for hiring.
Well, now we've talked about those things that we feel are going to shape those trends. Now let's go to, one other filter. What are three superpowers you would say employees, leaders really should kind of say, you know what, I need to do this above other things because it is fiercely competitive. The economy is uncertain. I need to always be kind of at that top notch. If you had three things you'd stress for people to focus on becoming really good at.
Well, if we talk about in the marketing world, certainly the data wizardry that we talked about, I would call. And the other one that I have seen many marketers that have become general managers say, they wake up one day and say, my financial aptitude is not where it needs to be. And if you're questioning, do you fully understand the balance sheet? Do you fully understand buy, make, borrow, capital markets? Go work on it now. You got to figure that out. The other piece, though, Bonnie, when you think about if you're trying to nail an interview, what are the couple of points that you need to nail? And I will tell you, the thing that my colleagues and I worry most about and are looking for is, are you a highly capable team builder and collaborator? And in this matrix world that we now live in, often remote, in fact, if you can't get stuff done through people that don't work for you, you're going to struggle. And the very best CEOs I know, CMOs I know, are the ones that people willingly follow. They like the idea. There's no puffery. They're genuine. They can paint that vision that we talked about. They can develop a plan that's really well thought out. And then people want to go follow. And well, more than anything, we're in the leadership business. We've spent a lot of, a couple of decades thinking about this. And the fact of the matter is my clients are looking for people that can paint that vision and get people to follow them.
Yeah, that's what you're saying is just, to me, so insightful, but really, really kind of cuts through the layers of all the various, noise that you hear and puts it right out there on the table.
I want to make sure you know about the other podcast from the Agile brand, the award-winning show about marketing strategy, technology, and the customer experience, and building the brand of the future. It's called The Agile Brand with Greg Kihlstrom, and in it we talk with leaders at some of the world's top brands, the MarTech platforms that are leading the way, and other thought leaders in marketing, CX, and digital transformation. Now in its fifth year with over 400 episodes and 1 million downloads, make sure you check it out with new episodes Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. To listen to the Agile Brand with Greg Kihlstrom podcast, you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can go to theagilebrand.show. That's theagilebrand.show. Now let's get back to the show.
I'm going to hop to another thought. Remote. Wow. Will it stay the way it is? Will occupancy, office occupancy stay where it is? Will people return 100%? Who knows? How does that influence an employee who's looking to really kind of grow and become a leader? And what do they need to think about? Should they be open to hybrid? Should they be open to remote? Should they say, hey, no, I realize I need to go in every day to be able to grow and learn from others? What do they need to do with that whole concept?
Yeah, it's a really hotly debated topic in boardrooms right now, as you would expect. And I often think of when I meet with CEOs, they're a little like Lion King. I remember when Lion King said to Simba, all you can see is yours, and that kind of concept. CEOs want to see their people. And in the last 10, 12 months, I've seen a pretty dramatic shift from, hey, can I do this from Aspen, Colorado on my couch? Or do you need me in the office? And the fact of the matter is I've got a number of active clients right now that a year or so ago, I suspect they would have allowed an executive to commute. More and more CEOs are now banging their fist saying, you know what, we've got a job to be done. I want you in the community. I don't want you, missing a flight or ripping out of the office on Thursday afternoon. We've seen lots of major changes. You may have seen what Smucker's did. Smucker's is probably in a less than ideal geography in Ohio, and I suppose it impedes their ability to get great people all the time. They came up with what they call 26 core weeks. I don't care where you live, but on those core weeks, I need you in the office the full week, and you figure out how that works for you. I think it's a pretty clever plan. We'll see how it plays out. But you and I both know we are better collaborating when we're together. And
absolutely.
My greatest fear, though, honestly, is for the young people. I've got a daughter that started in the marketing career for a big packaged goods company in Chicago. And because they've been an important food item, they've had to show up in the office. But I don't think our young people are learning the way you and I maybe did when we were in the office, watching those senior people above us who know how to influence the before meeting, the after meeting, things that you don't get on Zoom. And my personal belief, and you can imagine I travel and work remotely often, but I actually think those that can find a city and a company where they're comfortable being in the main headquarters is a far better plan. It's less stressful on the family. It's less stressful on the team and on the executive. And although there are countless examples that people just make hybrid work, and I'm not knocking that in any way, but I will tell you, many of our clients are now saying, listen, I miss what we used to have and I want to try to get back to that. So we'll see where it's going to end up. I think a lot of companies are trying to 2-3 day, trying to make it work. And many people have gotten used to working on their couches, as you know.
I think we can all agree on one thing. Things will never be the same. Things have certainly changed. And I think we are all in this time of trying to figure out how to navigate it all and come out on the other side still that person that has grown and being able to achieve their dreams and go after their dreams. But I tend to agree with you in that respect. There is something to be said about being in person with your colleagues and with other leadership. Let's switch gears a little bit. AI. How is artificial intelligence impacting employees? And what are your thoughts on the best way to approach that as either a threat or as something you need to embrace?
Well, like you, I suspect I've been trying to be a student of AI over the last several months to watch it, and I've read more and watched more than I care to admit. It is going to change our world in a dramatic way. There was an interesting 60 Minutes piece last night. Should we be scared? Should we be excited? Perhaps a little bit of both. One of the things that has intrigued me is experts seem to be convinced that AI is going to eliminate jobs. Yet everybody I know says it's going to be somebody else's job. So we need to figure out, no, wait a minute. I think the fact of the matter is it is going to be both exciting and scary. It is going to eliminate jobs. When I think about the world where I spend a lot of my time in marketing, I think the future is incredibly exciting. Just think for a moment, this could be the holy grail for marketing. If you think about how could we deliver hyper-personalized customer experiences, how could we use
Absolutely.
incredible data that you and I could never
Absolutely.
read through on pricing schemes? Dynamic pricing to say, when I'm talking to Bonnie, I don't need to give her the special incentive because I know she's going to buy anyway. And the reality is there's a lot of waste in marketing today. Right now, we don't know which half is being wasted. AI is going to help us, in optimizing our marketing plans in so many ways. The best CMOs I know are the ones that are trying to embrace it, trying to figure it out. I'm tending to be optimistic and excited about it more than worried, but it is going to change the game. And I think it's an exciting time in the marketing world as an example.
I use it as a tool all the time. And I say, listen, why not? If you have this incredible ability to leverage something that may help you deliver something quicker, more personalized, that's all you want in marketing, right? That's what we strive for. So, all right, on to another topic. I have seen, including myself, since post-pandemic, again, there are a lot more executives, employees, entrepreneurs, which I like to call, focusing on personal branding. And why do you see this more with professionals? I'm wondering, how have you seen this a little bit? And do you find it as a benefit or a threat, especially in the marketing area?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd categorize it as either of those, but I think I'll call this the LinkedIn world, because LinkedIn, a great partner of ours, has created an environment where it's okay for you as an executive to kind of have your shingle out there. Here's who I am. Here's what I've done. Here's what I think about. And I can describe myself in any way I want to the external world. It wouldn't surprise you to know that in the marketing world, we've got many silver-tongued brand builders that are great at building their company's brands, but they also spend a fair amount of time building their own brands. We've seen some examples of people that I think are probably overexposed in the market. On one hand, it's a great way for you to deliver who you are, what your unique selling proposition is, and what you might bring to a would-be employer. On the other hand, I think you've got to be a little careful. And, I get probably 200-300 emails a day and calls and people trying to connect and wanting to do that. And I, of course, want to help in any way I can. If I were to look at some people's LinkedIn profiles, I think they could walk on water. Bold, visionary leader, the way people tend to describe themselves, as they might do on a resume as well, is probably not as grounded as their former employers might describe them. So I think you've got to strike this nice balance around who you are, what do you stand for, what perhaps might be unique about the way you are. But oftentimes I have clients even looking at resumes that say, I am turned off by his suggestion that he won 5 Effie Awards. This isn't about winning awards. I'm not interested in hiring somebody to go win us Golden Globes, but rather I'm looking for somebody that can drive efficient, great marketing here at my company. So I think you got to figure out how do you balance that.
Yeah, that's great. And that's great advice. Going back to LinkedIn, I agree. I think that as well has just really exploded exponentially over the last couple of years. What are your thoughts as a recruiter and someone in this industry that uses that as a tool to almost give you that first impression and any advice you would give to folks who are listening in the value of that resource for recruiters?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing tool. And if I were looking for a job, I get to have a public, calling card, if you will. So, the first thing you should do is, I think, lift up anything that might make you unique and different. I wouldn't want to stand out by being too over the top in the kind of words that I might use to describe myself. It has changed our game in a big way because, as you can imagine, most every even senior level engagement that I'm working on, I have internal talent people on the company there. And you can bet that if I say, let me tell you about my friend Bonnie, that somebody in talent has already looked up Bonnie's LinkedIn profile, knows exactly how she shows up. But what a great way. And some do it beautifully on video of them in speaking engagements, intellectual capital pieces they've written, kind of a collection of a potpourri, if you will, of your body of work over the years. It's out there for people to see. So I think it's, every once in a while I now run into a senior executive that doesn't have a LinkedIn page. And I now honestly think that's fairly unusual. You can imagine many CEOs don't want to have that kind of presence, and I understand that. But I think it's a great tool and a wonderful way to connect.
I agree. And it does amaze me as I do some different things with, chief marketing officer associations, that I will find some folks don't even have a profile. And I don't know how you cannot have a profile if you're in marketing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you absolutely need to. I mean, it is humorous. When I just think about my own situation, the requests I get, oftentimes I will have somebody ask to connect. Upon review of their background, I think that maybe there's somebody that should be in my network and that we both could benefit from. And then 2 minutes later, personal message saying, I want to set up time. I want you to see if you can help me land a IoT role in India. And I'm thinking, you obviously didn't look at what I do and where my body of work is. So there needs to be some sort of level of mutual respect and professionalism in what people are asking for. Yeah, and as you would expect, I kind of hope and expect that people spend the time to say, listen, I'd like to connect with this person. Here's why it might be mutually beneficial. And some people tend not to do that.
Totally agree. And I always love to leave my listeners with 3 takeaways. And what I'd like you to give them today are 3 skills professionals should focus on right now to be ready for the next decade. Not just 3 to 5 years, to the next decade. If they're looking to really expand their runway, what are 3 pieces of advice, 3 things you'd say, hey, get on this now?
Yeah, no, great question. I'm not sure I have a ton of original thoughts, but I will tell you, I do pay attention when I look at executives that people follow. I remember reading about Colin Powell. People on his team said that they used to follow him just to see how he would handle situations. And I'm thinking, would my people say that about me? And as we're heading in, I just started doing the first part of our reviews at the end of the year. And so as we slide into the last couple of months of the year, I think it's a great time to do a little tune-up, check-up on yourself. And one of the things that I would recommend as you head into this new year is think about, if as an executive, to go look in the mirror and do a kind of a gut check on your reputation with your peers. And I think you might be pleasantly surprised to say, hey, Miss Head of Sales, or hey, Mr. CIO, can I buy you lunch or a cup of coffee? And I'd really like your candid feedback on how am I and my team serving you? What would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? And how do you think we're doing?
I love that.
Bonnie, the reality is we're all incredibly busy and we've got stuff on our to-do list today. And only the great executives are the ones that say, wait a minute, I'm going to step back, take some time to reflect, and I'm going to think about that. And I think that's a great way to do a gut check with people. You may think you know what they want, but even asking the question does wonderful things for that relationship. So I'd encourage that. The other one I love, and we often are helping new leaders step into new jobs, and as part of their ongoing 100-day plan, get out with customers.
Mm-hmm.
Find time, even though you're busy, to say, how can I go spend a day at retail? How can I see the way a new product is being launched? How can I engage with consumers? And a couple things happen when executives do that. One, everybody kind of takes notice and says, "Why, Bonnie's, spent time in 4 stores this week and was taking notes and engaging, and whatever. Your customers will probably love it. Your people will probably love of it. And, oh yeah, by the way, we just might learn something that's unique and different. So I think getting on the front line, we placed a CEO in a very large apparel retailer, and he spent the first month in stores. And every day at the end of the day, he would do a blog for his employees, commenting on what he learned and how ridiculous the point of sale was for back to school. And it was really hard to set up. And the display planogram didn't fit, and here's the new CEO, getting the people in the field to say, wow, this guy's out there listening, learning, doing it with us. So that's a great way to build momentum. The other piece that I've seen, just a bit of advice, is partnerships. When I think about how you get from here to there, and I look back and think about some of the great partnerships that have been crafted, not every executive I know is thinking about that. And, I love that old Chinese proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go as a team. I think there are things, and when I think about, I think of GoPro and Red Bull partnership. Mm-hmm. That's been incredible. I think of BMW and Louis Vuitton, perhaps two different brands, but same target audience that came together. Starbucks and Spotify. Someone at each of those companies decided to take a risk, explore what a partnership could do. And I think partnerships is a missed opportunity for many companies. It's one of those things I've just been thinking further and further about, and I'm doing it with my own business to think about what can we do differently that's beyond the confines of my firm.
I think those 3 pieces of information are so incredibly brilliant. I'm going to implement that for myself. It really is a kind of thinking out of the box mentality a little bit. I love that CEO story. I think those are the key things that make people a little different. And I think if people can implement that, maybe they can't implement all of those things, but maybe there's something that's similar to that or that kind of parallels that. Those are the small things that I think help you grow and change and see around corners and understand people better, and in turn help you be a better professional. So I just, again, thank you so much for all of the insights you've given me. We are really just so pleased to have you, and I appreciate your insights and your perspectives and all of the different angles and the trends that you've shared with us. So for our audience, if you want to learn more about Greg and Spencer Stewart, his information will be in the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening to the Innovation Economy podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe on your podcast channel of choice and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.innovationeconomy.show. The Innovation Economy is produced by Missing Link, a Latina-owned, strategy-driven, creatively fueled production co-op. From ideation to creation, they craft human connections through intelligent, engaging, and informative content. Until next time, let's keep innovating.